Hey there, Danny with Right Foot Down. I messed up this ad read so many times because I really want to tell you about Track Monkey Apparel. They make great quality enthusiast shirts along with hats, stickers, watches, patches, you name it. A couple of my personal favorites are their Life is Better at the Track tee and their One Track Mind tee. You should really check them out and see for yourself. Their products are great for you or the gearhead in your life. Visit trackmonkeyapparel.com.
You're listening to the Untitled Car Show in partnership with RightFootDown.com. Visit Right Foot Down for your daily automotive fix. If you enjoyed today's program, please tell a friend. It's the best way to support this show. If you want to visit the archives, go to YouTube and search for Untitled Car Show. That'll bring you to the archived episodes. If you want to follow this show, just search for Untitled Car Show on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You can always send an email to the show at untitledcarshow@rightfootdown.com. We're so glad you decided to spend the next hour or so with us. Without further ado, let's get into today's program. Actually, there is going to be a little further ado. So this week, as you're listening to this right now, we have an exciting announcement. The Untitled Car Show has an official T-shirt. You can head over to Track Monkey Apparel. No matter where you're listening to this, you'll see a link as the first thing appearing in the description down below. This is our first attempt at directly funding this show. So the way this is going to work is you're going to be able to go out, buy the shirt. For those of you who are wondering, it's $18. It comes in size small to 2XL, all the same price. The 2XL is $2 more expensive. So I don't know what other noise is happening at the moment, because that's how this thing works. I don't know, having some weird technical issues at the moment. Not with this thing. Anyway, so we're going to be doing a bunch of podcasting this week to remind you that there's a shirt out and to kind of give you a preview of if you're willing to go out and support the shirt, get us to where we need to be as far as funding goes. That we'll kind of have a preview of what it would be like if the show was fully funded. So we're going to be doing 5 episodes this week, at least. This is a big want of mine, but this is something I want to put out there so everyone's available to see it and enjoy it. And what is making noise? Yeah, so obviously there's going to be some stuff, like always with this show, where it's kind of raw. But that's where we're at. So this is going to be a week of direct podcasting. Go out, buy the shirt. If you're wondering where you can buy it, it's at trackmonkeyapparel.com. And then just look for on their main site, if you go to trackmonkeyapparel.com, you will see right near the top, it'll say the Untitled Car Show official T-shirt. And it'll be, shop now button. The way this works is it is a pre-order, so we need to hit a certain amount of people pre-ordering this shirt. I don't understand Android tablets, damn it. I need to turn that off. But, yeah, so it's a certain number of T-shirts need to be ordered. Then the ordering window will be extended. So if you are looking at getting something to help protect you from cold weather and all that, this is the time to get it. So go out, buy a shirt, help out the show. It helps out tremendously. Please do. If you know anyone who likes the podcasts and you can turn them onto it this week in particular, it'd be much appreciated. Just trying to get it all out in front of people as much as possible. I really don't want to go down the route of something like a Patreon where I just you give me money and I just take it and then I just put out a product. I really want to give this a, atmosphere of I enjoy doing the podcasting. I want to do it regardless of whether I'm getting paid or not. So here's a product for you to buy and purchase to help support the show. So for everyone who's listening, who's enjoys this show, I would really appreciate it if you could go out and order it. Again, thanks everyone so much for listening. Today's episode is going to be a little different. This is kind of a chat we had a couple weeks ago between myself and a bunch of other podcasters. I believe everyone's been on the show. So it's Jake over at Rags to Races. We have the Flats Highways Full Locked guys. We have GTB Johnny and myself kind of just talking about podcasting and how to make it in the industry. Not that we've really made it, I guess. So just kind of go out and give it a listen. If you like this, stay tuned. There will be another episode coming out tomorrow. What Android tablet? Yeah, see, so we got a dedicated tablet now up here. It's the old tablet I used to hate, but I kind of need it now. And it is making noises and clicks, and it's driving me nuts. So I'm going to go sort out that technical issue. And then besides that, everyone have a great day. Have a good night. Have a good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is there. Thanks for listening. And without further ado, let's get into this kind of neat little program.
First,
all right.
So I think sometime in September, FSFL will be about a year old, and we hopefully should be 30 episodes in. That's the goal. But so generally we started, and the first thing I did was actually ask for tips from other podcasters who I listened to before, and thankfully he was kind enough to actually go through and give me tips up the whole way, and that's a thingy.
Thingy.
So it's weird because I think there's a lot of difficulty in how we're actually going to coordinate the recording and, basically logistics of it all, because the three hosts of FSFL, one's in Tacoma, one's in West Virginia, and I'm here in Central Virginia. So I think it's a lot different of course, it's a lot different when it's just like one host like you guys usually do. So what do you guys?
Not me.
But,
yeah, Johnny does more of a entourage show, because it's Johnny and then it's the other guys who don't matter, and then the one lady sometimes.
Yeah, we have Tiffany, we have our producer Gary Hammer, and then we have the other host David. We call him Gremlin. So not after the AMC. He prefers the cartoon version of Gremlin.
So how did you guys get started? What made you want to start a podcast, and what were your first steps to hopping into the world of podcasting?
Well, first, it's listening to you guys like FSFL.
Ooh.
And Dave, no. First, it's listening to podcasts. Like, if you're listening to podcasts, and like I was listening to some of the other popular ones. I won't name drop, but I was listening to some of the popular ones, and I was all like, I love talking cars, so I just find all these car podcasts. I was working a dead end job, and the days were long, and sometimes working 10 hours or 12-hour days, and I just start slamming podcasts, like slamming these shows one after another, sometimes going through their back catalog and going all the way back to the beginning, just because I love cars. I love talking cars. And when my friend, I seen a post on a popular car group about Dave asking people if anybody at that car group was interested. I'm like, I love talking car. I'll do it. I ain't scared of a microphone, because up to that point, I was already doing some little bit of live streaming, so I was pretty comfortable just rambling to nobody. So started doing that for a little bit, and then got connected with Dave, and they sat down with me and asked me, like, what do you want to get out of this? I'm like, I really don't want to get anything out of it. If we make money at this, cool. I'm not money hungry. If we get if we get cars, cool. That's awesome. That's kind of the the ultimate goal of any car podcaster or any car journalist is to get those press cars and try them out. But if it doesn't happen, I'm cool just talking car.
It's fascinating. So we're kind of, I don't know whose program this is ending up on either. I assume that's right?
Well, probably.
I don't know. This is the sort of host in me just kicking over. So, but it's fascinating. So, all of us listened to podcasts before we really got into doing this, obviously, because you have to know the medium, which is interesting. Did anyone actually listen to talk radio or anything like that before they got into doing this?
I did.
Kind of. I grew up listening to talk radio.
I do, and I was kind of a fan of a morning show on the radio. But, at one point in time, I'd almost prefer that. I didn't really care about all the music. I just wanted to listen to the morning show, and
Yeah, news, traffic, weather news, that sort of stuff. It's chicken in Topeka, and we got 36, and then over there we got 30.
All the time, my whole childhood. It was either political talk or news and stuff like that. The radio was just constantly on talk radio. So
I wasn't so much talk radio. I was more of a morning show.
Morning Zoo Crew,
where they were, our famous radio station here would have what's called a fake at 8, which is really interesting.
Yeah,
this is why I shouldn't be on video, by the way, for everyone.
Nice. I listen to a ton of podcasts myself, and I spend a ton of my workday in the car, and music only got me so far. And honestly, the first podcast I really listened to regularly was Serial, of all things. And after that, it's okay, well, I know there's got to be some car-based ones out there. And started kind of just looking for the random ones. Of course, I subscribed to Corollas. And through a couple of different channels, I ended up listening to the Untitled Car Show. And I'm like...
It all comes back to this guy,
it all
Ike.
comes back to Ike.
That's ridiculous.
And the thing about me, the whole reason I decided to start doing it was...
Because he let you on his show.
Actually, it was about the same time I started, but it was before that, a little bit before that. I had been listening to these car shows, and a lot of what I was listening to are, car culture. But I'm a huge, when it comes down to it, racing is the most important part of car culture to me. And if you want to listen to a racing podcast, you're listening to Corolla talking about running a Newman car at the hill climb and stuff that was way out of my budget, and there wasn't a whole lot out there that I could find anyway that was centered around racing on a budget. So I hemmed and hawed and thought about it, and believe it or not, I'm actually a Dudist priest. I'm a priest in the Church of the Latter-day Dude, and I performed my first wedding. And at the reception, the younger brother of the bride lives out in Southern California and bought an E46 BMW M3. And he comes up to me, someone had sent him my direction. Yeah, I just got this car, and I have no idea. I want to do track days or something where I can do some performance driving, but I have no idea where to look or where to start. Well, that just kind of set the ball in motion. I decided I've got to do this now. If there's people out there in this day and age that still don't know where to look, then somebody needs to be a voice for them and point them in the right direction. And that's kind of where the whole show began and where it grew from.
That's almost kind of sort of FSFL started, because I've always had a penchant for industry news and future products and stuff like that. But, I don't really have a foot in racing or have anything hands-on in the industry. So my thing was, there are a lot of people. I notice increasingly now that my life has become busier with 2 jobs and now school in a few weeks, that I just don't have the time to hang out on the automotive sites like I used to when I was either just a sole college student with one job or back in high school where I can afford to like spend hours on like Autospies and Jalopnik and Autoblog. And I remember when Jalopnik was born. But
you're so old.
I'm that old. I remember that site came out. But I think it was like last September. Like I was listening to the Autoblog podcast, and then I think a lot of it's, you know, I've wanted to get into some form of this industry somehow. It's just like I can do this myself. Why am I just sitting around in my ass when I can get out here and literally just try to start this up and at least have some fun doing it? So, you know, I think, you know, I think that's what the main thing is. You got to find out. I think you don't have an issue finding what to talk about when you know what you want to talk about.
There is that example of. Also, I should probably end the video because I'm like, I am goofing around so much on the video, and I'm suppress that. I think I should just pull that off because it is just too tempting for me to mess with everyone. So
we were having a good time. Come on.
I was enjoying Mr. Puff.
Yeah, it's a Mr. Doman, Mr. Doman. Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. Once you kind of know what you want to talk about, it's easy to start talking about it. But I think, in my own experience and kind of what I've learned listening to other people do video stuff, do analog stuff, elsewhere, is you got to do 7 episodes before you really know that you want to do this. Because
yes.
If you make it to episode 7 and you've run out of everything you want to say, you shouldn't be doing it. Like, if you don't like doing it after that point, like, then you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. And it's really hard to tell someone, hey, you need to bank 7 episodes, or you need to do this, that, or the other to get to that point, and then, you know, for them to do it, which obviously is a good starting point. Like, if you can't do 7 episodes before you put out episode 1, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Now, on the flip side of that, putting out 3 episodes a week, like I do, which I've been sucking at recently, that takes a lot of time. And 3 hours out of your week quickly turns into 6, 9 hours out of the week just on editing and everything.
So let's stick on multiple episodes a week, because FSFL, we do sort of like maybe a weekly summary. So we, you know, since we're not making any money or having obligations to do anything business like with FSFL, we can afford to do 1 episode a week because it's just a summary. When it comes to making multiple episodes a week, like, do you have like certain goals per episode you want to do, or how do you plan this out?
Well, you're asking the wrong person, because my basic strategy is if you look at the way the iTunes charts are made up, and that's kind of the way most people listen to shows, it rewards people who put out stuff frequently, and it rewards people who get consistent download numbers over the week. So that's why someone like Adam Carolla puts out an episode every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because that helps you. You know, you got, you know, however many thousands or hundreds of thousands of episodes he gets downloaded every day, you know, times 5 days a week. You got a huge base, and that allows you to put out, you know, it becomes an issue of when you're trying to attract advertisers, and you can say, well, we're number 1, and on this chart we get this many downloads a week, we got all this stuff working for us. The multiple episodes a week works for that. But on the flip side of that, like, I think the last 2 weeks I've only been able to put out 2 episodes simply because of outside interference, I guess is a good way to put it.
Life.
Life happens.
Ain't that the truth?
And then it's disconcerting because people get into a habit, like Matt Ferris says this all the time. They get into a habit of listening to you a certain way and at a certain time, or they get in the habit of watching you at a certain time. And if you upset that, you know, for more than a week, you start losing, you know, people back to it because you've broken their routine. So you want to keep a routine, you want to keep people listening to you, and that's kind of why, you know, I started doing the multiple episode thing too. And also because anytime anything gets super easy for me to do, like I could put out an episode a week now, and it's next to nothing for me to do it. So 2 episodes a week started becoming easy. So it just became a thing of like, well, if 2 episodes a week is easy, let me try doing 3 episodes a week. And now 3 episodes a week is hard. And it's good that it's hard because it should be hard, you know?
There's a thing, and I apologize if it comes up over the mic.
It's all right.
Because within arm's reach, I can touch the train track. So it could get really loud in about 5 minutes.
Hey, I'll figure something out on my end here. I'll try and cut the audio down a little bit. So,
Yeah.
So we've got so when it comes to your content, like when it comes to monetization in a way. So I noticed how many of us actually create our own content when it comes to like intros and stuff like that?
I do everything except for the music. I actually went and bought canned music for my intro and outro music.
For us, our producer just threw something together. We're kind of going to be tweaking it coming up here soon. So
what are your thoughts on intros and outros when it comes to length or tone? Do you think the tone sets the whole tone for the show? Because if you listen to early episodes of FSFL, which may or not be possible because they may or may not have been taken down due to a SoundCloud issue, but you would have heard the old intro, and that was literally just when I was making the intros, it was the stock song for the program I was using. I was like, oh, well, that's fine enough. But everyone on the show except me hated it. So when it comes to what's up? Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt your thought there, but when it comes to the intro, to me, you know, at the beginning, I was a big believer of like, why are you going to put an intro on something? Because people are coming to you to listen to something. But I do think there's a reason to have it now, like where.
Hold on for the train.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, mama!
Terrific out there.
Tell Thomas to go away.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Sorry, my new employees are here.
The whistle goes woo woo. No,
All right, Bub Rub.
Yeah, I do think there's a point to the intro though, because I do think there is people want to be led into what they're listening to, and like if they want to skip ahead, they have the option to skip ahead. But I think a lot of people like I know I'm listening to FSFL or the Blown Pistons or the entire car show because here's the intro I'm used to hearing. So it kind of lets them know, it's there. And I do think because you do all your own music, right?
Yeah.
We have a disclaimer.
Actually, it's funny though because I'm the only one who's insistent on creating like original content when it comes to music. Like Roland and Steve, like they're always like, "Hey, we should use this song. We should use this song." It's like, well, I mean, it sounds great and all, but I think keeping it as original as we possibly can, especially in these early stages, because if we get caught for some sort of copyright infringement,
you're over and done with. Yeah, and podcast is such a weird thing because it's like, do you treat it like radio? Do you treat it like YouTube? Like, how does copyright work? And it's such a strange world to be in. Like the laws, even YouTube stuff is set more in stone than what's happening with podcasts. Because everyone can put together you can put together a podcast right now that had nothing but #1 hits on the pop charts, rap charts, and every chart, and put it out every week that was available with that. And until you got big enough to get caught, you would get, probably thousands and thousands of listens to it. But on the flip side of that, once you get caught, you'd probably be, sent to some
millions.
Sort of prison or something.
Some sort of special institution for podcasters who break the law.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a special place in hell for us.
A padded room with a microphone, that's it.
But I do think because if you listen to Adam Carolla's show or you listen to some of the big podcasters out there, you can still hear they have like the sound effects and the jingles from iTunes GarageBand.
Yeah,
because I know those jingles because I've used them myself, and it's like
they're stock jingles, and we can't get in trouble for using them.
Yeah,
because all the loops I make are through GarageBand, and those are all the loops that they provide for us. So
Yeah. So it's like, this is what the professionals are doing. And you can't see right now because I've taken myself off air, but, air quotes, like professionals are doing, because professional podcaster is a bit of a, like, jumbo shrimp, bit of a moron.
Steve Lito.
I mean, really what we all want to do is we want to be able to do this and never put pants on. That's basically
absolutely.
That'd be great.
Why are you turning your camera off, Ike?
Yeah.
No. Was he really eating a taco?
Yeah. No, I was. Yeah. That's what I call it. Yeah. I ate the taco.
Wow. Now, I'm actually in a lucky place. My wife is actually in marketing. So when I was doing the setup and preparing to put the podcast together, and while I'm popping like a crazy, but when I was getting ready to put everything together, I actually ran everything across her first and foremost. And the big thing is, I was iffy about finding music to begin with at all, but really she made a good point that if you have intro and outro music and it's the same every week, it kind of gets associated with it, and it gets that mental image of your show. If that song comes on, people who listen to the show know the song, and it makes them think about you.
It's very true. And it's like, in theory, when you eventually get to the point where you could advertise somewhere else, if it's catchy enough and they know it, and that's you, that gets someone like, oh, I should go listen to that episode or whatever. I've been, by the way, for like the first time in forever, because the missus is out of town and I'm off the match. This stuff is strong. So.
It's sort of like Top Gear and Allman Brothers Jessica. It's like when you hear that song on BBC, like that, hey, that's Top Gear. I'm going to sit my ass down and watch this. So it's synonymous. Yeah. So let's see.
Sort of hashtag brand, if you will.
Yes. Now, what about now here's the fun part. What about hosting, deciding where you're going to host your podcast, how you're going to get the RSS feed out everywhere, and where are you going to place it? How did you guys decide how you wanted to do that?
Google search.
Okay, one at a time, ladies.
Google. I Googled it. I ended up on Podomatic somehow, and I wouldn't say they're definitely not the best place to put stuff, but it's free for the beginner, and then they kind of have a good tiered system to it. So if you have no idea, what you're doing, it's a good place to start off, because they kind of do walk you through everything.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
SoundCloud has like this, I think 6 hours of content thing. They're like, you got to pay now. But what I like about SoundCloud when we started using them was that they make it easy to push all your podcasts out to places where you want it to be. So they give you like this link, and then you put that link in iTunes or like in Stitcher or somewhere else, and then once you upload an episode, within like 35 seconds, like it's already where you want it to be. Mm-hmm. And
now, you know how I know I've been doing this too long is because when I tried to do SoundCloud back in the day, it was still in beta, and they wouldn't let me in.
It's funny though, because the FSFL SoundCloud is actually my old SoundCloud from like back when I got invited into SoundCloud. And it's funny though, because I wasn't using it at the time. I got it because one of my friends was this DJ. Like this is like years ago, like 2010, 2011, I think. And I followed him because, I was his friend. I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to listen to your stuff. And then when we were looking for places to start the podcast, like SoundCloud came first in mind because, one, I already had an account there. And two, I mean, it just seemed like a logical place to put something because I already had it, and it was someplace I was already familiar working around it. So, yeah.
There is something definitely too. See, this is what happens when I drink, is I get really talky. So you all apologize right now, because I will take over this in like 10 seconds if you let me. But there is something about like being in an ecosystem that you understand when you're getting into this, because the less hurdles you give yourself, like find the place that works, that's easiest for you to understand. That is the place that gives you the most help that you need for your particular needs. So, like, I'm fairly adept, despite what comes across. I'm fairly adept technically, but when it comes to, like, Web 2.0 HTTP stuff, not so good, and that's what Podomatic was really helpful at.
Yep.
So, like, if SoundCloud helps you do something, or if someplace like Shout Engine helps you do something that another place doesn't, just kind of, like, go look at 3 or 4 hosting solutions for yourself before you kind of decide on it.
Yeah.
And kind of, like, know yourself and know what you're going to need out of what you want. So.
And when it comes to pricing, too, like, I know a lot of these places have some pretty insane, like, tiers of pricing, but the SoundCloud is like, okay, so it's like $130 for a year, but you get, like, the unlimited, like, everything package, and you get, like, all the statistics and all the other fun stuff that I barely look at. And then, because it's, like, 3 people. And,
the light just blew out in here. What the hell?
I lost my train of thought.
So statistics and everything with SoundCloud and all the extra data that you get, and
I mean, it was an easy platform, and they made everything so easy. So I thought it was great. Do you guys check, like, analytics and stuff?
I do.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Good.
I rarely check it for SoundCloud because it depresses me. But what's interesting is the analytics on our Facebook, because every now and then Facebook would throw us, like, a little coupon to run, like, a free ad, because they're really trying to push people to push those ads out. And I had this one ad that was running for about a month now. It's like a $75 coupon they sent me, and I put the demographic basically throughout the whole world. I just put in some random countries in there, and I just sent it all out there. And our largest demographic was women in South Africa. They're the ones who clicked that ad.
Interesting.
well, the listeners can't see, but I can see why.
Ah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
You got to get some darkness, ladies.
Yeah. It's the shaved head. It's the that's what's nice little shine going on up there.
Oh gosh, you're flattering me. I'm blushing. You can't see it, but it's a really dark blush.
Well, that's one of the cool. Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh, the analytics, though, that's the fun part, because it's so crazy. I started watching, like, maybe once a month I'll pull them up and see, okay, who in the world is listening to me, and then all of a sudden I started getting a big following in Australia, and then
Australians love their car shows.
Europe, and then Saudi Arabia and South America. I'm like, what?
Yep.
How do they?
Yeah.
What?
Yep. Yeah, it's funny how it's very little Americans listening to us, but, like, how global cars. It really shows how global the gearheads are, and it makes you wonder, like, what's their content like on that side, that we're the ones filling in that hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's what I always find fascinating too is when I look at the stats, I go, if there was an auditorium full of, like, the people who listened to the last episode, like, how crazy would it be to think that, like, I would be on the stage? Because that's really what we're doing, is we're performing for people listening to us. And, when you think about it, like, even if it's, if you're thinking about starting out and you're thinking about, well, maybe only 10 people will listen, or 100 people will listen, or however many people will listen. If you thought about getting up on stage in front of that many people and talking, it would scare most people.
It would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like,
Isn't like live podcasting becoming a thing now?
Well, yeah, but you still need an audience, but it's still not as intimidating as, like, a group presentation. Like, a small class is like, what, like 10 people?
Yeah.
And you still have to talk in front of those people, and, like, seeing those faces and seeing you BS that report on Stonehenge. It's a lot different than just, like, doing, like, an audio podcast BSing about Stonehenge. I'm not talking from experience. I'm totally talking from experience. But
so when is FSFL coming out with that Stonehenge episode?
I burned that paper as soon as I was done with it.
Well, that's interesting. So I dropped out of college, but one of the few courses I took was a public speech course. And I don't know if anyone else took any of these, but I never prepped for anything. They would give me a topic, and then I would wait. This is part of the reason why I dropped out of college, mind you. But I would wait till the last possible second, realize, I got to do 30 seconds worth of research, and then get up in front of 20 or 30 people and talk about it. And, when it comes to doing the hour-long episodes where I'm just kind of sitting talking to myself, I do think that's a very helpful skill to have where you're like, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to talk and it's just going to flood out and everything's okay. And yeah.
You have a 20-minute episode, right, Ike?
Yeah. Well, and again, to that point is I've started doing some stuff on the road even because I'll be like, I forgot to do X, Y, or Z, or I know I'm going to be super busy. And I will be trying to be entertaining and enlightening and have a good, topic to talk about while I'm driving through the world's worst traffic in the DC metro area, which is not an easy task. So
you're from that Nova area too?
Yeah, you know it well. You stay far away.
I learned how to drive there.
Yeah, you did? Because no one else.
My dad was a Virginia National Guard, and in 2006 we moved to Fort Belvoir. And after we retired, he moved to Fairfax, and they're still there now. I worked in Alexandria.
The
what?
They can't leave. Every time we try to get on the road, we get run off. No one else has time. I used to work in Alexandria, Vienna, Springfield, and I'm very familiar with that area. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the worst drivers in the U.S.
Honestly, though, it's funny because I moved here to Central Virginia. I'm the only one to use my horn.
Are they worse than Chicago drivers, Like?
Oh, no, they're worse than Chicago drivers. Chicago drivers.
Oh, Chicago drivers. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, okay, no. Actually, no. There's Virginia drivers, and then there's Seattle drivers.
And then there's Houston drivers, and they got y'all beat. Oh, good Lord. If you ever driven down there, don't.
But
I will say this. So they just came out with a survey of the worst drivers in the U.S. The worst ones, according to the insurance companies, was Boston. I don't know who number 2 was, but I know number 3 was the D.C. metropolitan area.
Yep.
So that's Boston was 3 times as likely as the national average to be in a crash, and D.C. was just behind it. So it's these are the worst drivers in basically the country in the D.C. area. So,
but sort of steered back out of DC and into the lane here. When I guess going back to analytics, I guess when you look at those, does that mean you sort of change your marketing towards them, towards your largest viewer, or how do you guys usually work it?
Me personally, I've got one message, and I want to keep portraying that same message. I don't really change for the analytics. I look at the analytics to see just who's out there, who's listening, and how can I help them. But I don't really change the message or the basis and the storyline of the show, really, because I've got one message and that to get out, and that's, if you really want to get into racing, do it. Go out there and try it, or find somebody or some way to get involved, regardless of what your budget is.
And I agree with that. I mean, why, they like what they're hearing, obviously. Why change? Mm-hmm. Blown Pistons is just about a couple of friends, getting together, enjoying some bad habits together while talking about cars. And I mean, that's pretty much what Blown Pistons is about.
I thought the cars was the habit.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is Gearhead Anonymous.
Pretty much, that's what Blown Pistons is about. My name is John, and I'm addicted to cars.
Yeah.
I have a problem. Mine doesn't even run.
Mine run. I just don't have a front bumper.
Wait, they can move? Since when? Who? No, I'll say so. Especially early on, what I did is what? Or are we talking to me, or am I doing something else? Anyway, so we're just gonna power through the alcoholism. So
Fuel the jet.
Especially early on, there was a definite trying to judge the reaction of people listening to the show based on the analytics, and there is an issue with that. So there's a real delayed response, I think, with listeners, particularly to podcasts, where it's hard to build up an audience fast because you have to, build a brand around your, podcast. You have to make people aware of it, and there has to be some history behind it because most people listen to podcasts like you all do, and I do. You go into an episode, and you might listen to one episode and go, well, that was fun and entertaining. Let me go back an episode or two or three or go find an old guest or old topic that seems entertaining. And so there's this delayed response. So if I see a huge spike or a huge drop in listeners, I try and go back over the last month or maybe month and a half and see if there's really been any big change in what's happened or going on. And it kind of lets you know particularly with me is I am not an audio engineer, and apparently the way I was editing my audio was shit for a long time. And I would fix it, and then it would break again, and it just became an issue where I could go back through and listen to episodes and go oh, the audio quality has been absolutely atrocious these last few episodes, and that's why I've seen a loss of listenership. Where on the flip side, when I've got it basically down to a science now, where it's not an issue, and I haven't seen a dip like that, and now when I see a spike, I go, okay, what's changed in the last 6 months, or in the last 6 weeks, rather, and what has really changed? And if it's nothing's really changed in the last 6 weeks, that just means the word's getting out. And if something really has changed, I try and push whatever that is. So.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Johnny. You're not the only one. Johnny would let me know my audio sucks, but you're definitely not the only one. So.
No, man, one time I had to go out to my car, turn the volume on max, just to hear Ike whisper.
Yeah. It's funny though because on FSFL, Roland is kind of the in-house critic we have, and I think generally when he gets around to listening to an episode, which it's just how he rolls. He rarely listens to the show, which is horrible. I hope you're listening to this because I'm calling you out. But I do value the criticism from within first because I think it sort of molds us a lot in the direction when it comes to how we want to sound and generally quality, I guess. But it's really it's a lot of the smaller things too that can create better sound, where your mic is, the closest to your face, obviously the better you're going to sound. And upgrading your mic altogether. Roland and Steve went out and bought these fancy $50 microphones, and I'm still using the Chinese $20 one that I got when we first started. But moving it close to my face has created better content. So,
see, yeah. I've got an interesting side to that. After I got out of the Army, I was actually thinking about getting into the audio industry and actually working as a studio engineer. I learned to work aboard in high school, and so I'm very particular about the audio quality and what it sounds like. And from what I understand, I'm actually one of the few people that actually goes through and edits every one of their episodes and fixes the issues with the audio quality to give the best product possible.
Yeah. I try. I really do, because there's sometimes, especially
it takes hours sometimes.
Yeah, especially when especially when it's multiple people and one if one of you, it's it could either be some random hiss in the background, or just the audio is it was just so off that you have to find some way to either mute the others and just somehow get them all to sound either the same or enhance the levels of the others. So how do you do?
I spend hours looking at stuff. A 1 hour episode, I'll spend 2 hours going through and editing, cutting out dead space, cutting out hiss. If the levels aren't just right where you can't hear them, and I'm the whole time, especially Skype is such a finicky beast.
I don't. That's why I don't like Skype. I use Google Hangouts.
Yeah, but the whole time we've been recording, I'm watching the levels, and I'm actually adjusting my masters and my levels accordingly, so everything comes out fairly close. And with a few quick edits, I can actually get this one out pretty clean. However, my personal preference, if I'm editing it for my show, I'm going to try and go through and fix the pops and any of the ums and uhs and coughs and burps I'll cut out. Stuff like that.
I just talk over all the crap. That way it makes it hard.
Well, you know what they say? It takes like 8 hours of recorded stuff to make one good hour, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really interesting that you actually go and do through all of that because, you know, I think the main issue that we have when it comes to, like, things that should be edited out on FSFL is either dead spaces when, I guess, whether it's that silent awkward or when someone curses. So I fix one by just leaving E on the thing because I just don't feel like editing out cursing. And then the other one, when we just have an awkward silence, someone has to be the first and hurries up and breaks it.
Well, it's interesting when you have a roundtable because I've done it before where I've had guests on the show, and I've had multiple guests on the show where I'll have like people who are fans call in and talk on the show. And when you have people who are not in this field on your show often, or when you have people you're starting to gain a rapport with and understand, the cadence and the beat of, there is a point where like the pauses exist and you need to kind of like figure out if you're thinking about kind of, again, to the point of this, where if you're thinking about trying to get into doing the show, you have to learn, as a podcaster, how to kind of, fill in the voids, put in, not fill in dead air, but not let dead air happen as much.
Yeah.
As well as, I always joke on the show, I don't really edit, which is partially true, where I go through and I really like the natural feel of stuff. I like the behind the scenes stuff, and like, there's a couple of recent episodes, John, you were on one where we're having a whole bunch of Skype issues, but I will go through on the back end. I'll take out, like if I bump the microphone by mistake, or if the guest has like an awkward burp or something like that, where something kind of spikes at the level. Because what you really don't want is you don't want the person sitting in their car, which is how I think a lot of people ingest this, having to reach for it. Because I listen to some podcasts where you have to reach out and you have to adjust the volume up, adjust the volume down, and sometimes you get that like loud spike in your ear. And that's the last thing you want. You want people to be sitting there and naturally enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, Mike, I thought you were going to talk about our first interview where everyone was using my bathroom.
That was also hilarious, yeah. Don't do that.
And it's funny you say that, too, because, before I switched to marketing, I was studying journalism. And they had us take a mandatory news and reporting class. And I think one of the things that my teacher was going over a lot of the time, especially with broadcast journalism, is every second of dead space you're not talking, it's just awkwardness. Because it's like when it comes over the radio, like it's different when it's on the TV because you can sort of see like what's going on and why, or the awkward, or the reason someone would stop talking. But when it's on the radio, you don't know if there's something wrong with the feed or if something went on, and then they just start talking.
Yeah, you don't want anyone to think that there's a technical issue, because I've had that before where there'll be, the dead space will be left in for a reason. In the podcast where like someone will say something really stupid and it'll be paused, and then everyone laughs. But you want to minimize that pause as much as possible because, the last thing you want is, and I've done it before, where you reach for your phone or you reach for whatever device it is that you listen to it on, and they're like, oh, is there something wrong with my feed or whatever?
Yep.
Then, you've taken the people out of the moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This is interesting. So I'm curious. So I got to go back to the little Skype menu here so I can see. Are you reading from like a list of questions over there?
This is all off my head.
Wow.
You're a braver man than I am.
You guys should have seen me. I was like freaking out for like the past like 30 minutes. Like, how am I going to wing this off? Remember my Stonehenge presentation, guys?
Are you going to burn this one too?
I've got the master copy. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I think that's a good place to end it for today. We should probably do this again because I think there's still more we can go over.
I got a couple questions for you guys since we're all on here doing a powwow. What's some good advice you can give someone who actually wants to go start their own podcast? One good piece of advice from everybody.
All right.
Do it.
I think if you're dedicated to do something like a podcast, it's something that, one, you need to be really passionate about. Two, you got to really love it. And three, if you're going to have hosts, make sure all you guys are dedicated enough to where you're willing to take out enough time out of your schedules to do this. And when technical difficulties happen, that as soon as you overcome them, you hop back running back full force in first gear all the way to 50 miles per hour.
That means I have to go next with this whole advice for people.
Yes.
I don't know. See, now I'm just going to draw this out as long as possible because that's what I do when I start drinking.
Do it, man. Do it.
So first and foremost, I think the number one thing is you have to know, like, if there's a niche that you want to fit into. My foot's starting to cramp up. God damn.
You're falling apart on us.
Yeah. So if there's like a niche you want to fit into, like in the automotive world, then just try and fill it. If you see something that's like not filled in, you know, if you're thinking about doing something outside of automotive, you know, that's kind of a little bit out of my wheelhouse when it comes to it, but I think the same stuff applies where you should reach out and try and talk to other people because we've all reached out to each other in the past for help for whatever reason, or if we need, you know, a guest or whatever.
Yep. I bug Ike all the time.
Yeah. So you just need to kind of like find a way to let the, you know, community know that you're whatever that community is. If it's automotive, if it's movies, if it's whatever. You kind of got to just make it aware that you're getting into this. Try and build up a repertoire before you really release episodes. Because there's no reason when you put out a podcast, you should have episode 1, and that should be the only podcast you have out there. You should really have 7 episodes is what I've always heard, but I think that's a big ask for a lot of people because that's multiple weeks, maybe a month of doing it. Put out 3 episodes. Let people listen to it. You know, if they like the first one, they'll like the second one, they'll like the third one. Make sure you like what you're doing. If you really start to lose your passion for it, you probably should move on to doing something else or something different. And, you know, be open to, you know, feedback and all that stuff. I mean, it really is, at the end of the day, it's you're trying to either entertain, enlighten, or just have fun with, you know, people who are into the same stuff you are. So if you can't enjoy that, you really shouldn't be doing it. And you're not going to make money. Matt Farah, big podcaster in any regard, he's got a thing of like, in the automotive world in general, you won't be making money, you know, by year 3 if you're lucky, you know. Maybe year 5, you'll start to see a little return on investment. But this is something where if you're like, we're going to do this, and then we're going to get advertisers and blah, 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 then you're in it for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to go, I can do this for the next 5 years, have, you know, fun doing it. And at the end of that 5 years, if I haven't made, you know, dime one, because I'm sure we're all the same. Like, I've lost, you know, probably hundreds of dollars doing this just because I enjoy doing it. It's my hobby. You know, automotive as a hobby in general is very expensive.
Yes.
As Jake can, you know, relay. You know, racing is fun, but racing is normally not cheap, and cars aren't cheap unless you're broke like me, or, you know, you go out and you buy a piece of crap Mercury for whatever reason.
Well, you know, you're like you were saying, like anything automotive, you know, you have to have a passion for.
Yep.
You know, like detailing, like, you were saying on when we talked last, like it takes, some dedication to clean your car.
Oh my God, I want to kill myself every time I do.
Oh,
right.
okay.
And like, I'm passionate about that. That's why me and my fiance opened up our own shop, is because I took her out on a job and she liked it. So it was awesome that she got into it, and like I showed her how to do it, and now we dance together. We'll knock out a car in 3 hours, and it looks almost brand new. And we get a kick out of it, just seeing someone's reaction to that. Like, oh my God, you turned my pile of shit into a diamond.
Yeah. No, it's true. And there is a very good thing to that, because it is a lot like cleaning out your car, where you're going to be slogging and you're going to be working, and there's a lot of stuff no one's going to really pay attention to, but that's the shit that really matters, Like you're saying, audio quality. You have to have the right equipment. You have to have the right, you don't have to have the expensive shit. Like,
no, you don't.
My microphone's not expensive. My converter board's not expensive. My Mac is like 10 years old at this point.
Same.
My desktop that I use actually was left here from the previous owners of my home. I wiped the hard drive and started over from scratch. It was free.
Yeah.
And then you get this guy, and you get the fun way out. But gosh, what was I going to say earlier? Jake?
Yeah.
Jake, yeah. What about you?
Me?
Oh, I see how it is. Just put Ike off. Like, I don't know.
I actually have to kind of disagree with Ike to a point. Ike said earlier that you should record 7 episodes and see how it goes.
Yeah, we did one really bad one that never made the air.
See, my first episode I released, and it's still out there. It's my first episode now for the show. I, however, before recording that, came up with 52 different ideas, so I could have 1 episode a week, whether or not I had a guest or not. I had something I could find, I could research and talk about. And because of that, I had so many ideas, and I've, of course, been flexible with it from there. But I am very, very passionate about motorsports and racing. And I could talk about it all day, and my poor wife has to deal with it most of the time. So this helps. I can find like-minded individuals and talk about it here. And then that's really what podcasting is, at least for me, is my opportunity to sit down, relax in my basement. Hi, I'm waving back at you. You can't see me, but
I'm waving at the lady that we've been pointed towards.
Oh.
Baby.
Is that for pillows?
But
What the hell?
womp womp.
What?
You're beautiful.
I wish I had something sharp to throw at you.
Wow.
Well, all right. So back to what I was saying.
Go ahead.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Bye.
So, but no, back what I was saying, I came up with an idea and a plan in advance, and there were times where it got really tough for me, and I had family health issues. My wife is a student. I've got 4 dogs in the house, one of which had surgery recently. So I've got a lot on my plate besides the podcast, and there was a point in time where I actually thought about giving it up, but I stuck through that tough time, and since then, in the last month, things have taken a total 180-degree turn, and I've actually had a lot of doors opened up for me just because I stuck through it. Even though I did take a little 5-6 week break just to help with the family, I was still able to get somewhere, and all this stuff's great, but frankly, I'm just doing it to help those who don't know where to look. And I get that one. I've had a couple of emails now where I get those emails, and it's like, hey, I found your show on iTunes. I've been wanting to get into racing. I didn't have any clue. I'm going out to look into corner marshalling, or I'm going to go autocrossing next week. Those are the best emails in the world to get. It makes what I do with the show, no matter how much money it costs, how much time it takes, all the editing and everything else, doesn't matter to me, because that's what it's worth to me. That's what matters to me, is that one person when I reach out and I get that one person that says, "Yep, now I'm going to start doing this," that makes it all worthwhile to me.
Which is, the great part, because, we all do different formats of show, and we all interact with our, guests in different ways, and our, listeners different ways, and it makes it really satisfying, because the great thing about doing a podcast is you kind of get to get your feedback in the way you really want to receive it. So, like, you get this immense satisfaction out of your particular skill set, which is, I don't know, fascinating. So, like, you get great emails about, like, hey, thanks for, introducing me to racing. And I get, hey, thanks for introducing me to X, Y, or Z, or your audio sucks, fix it. But it's, you get to interact with people. And again, like, when you really sit down and think about it, and a lot of people get discouraged early on, I think, because they go, I'm only having X number listen to me, and I really don't think that's enough people to make this worth doing.
That's me.
I come back to if you were in an auditorium and you were saying this in front of everyone, that would be a big audience to you, no matter how small that number is. And if you get any feedback from that, that means you really touch someone to the point where they feel like, hey, I need to reach out and tell this person they've really made an impact on me. And that's, the equivalent of, like, the auditorium empties and a couple people stay behind because they really just want to get your autograph or talk to you. Or interview. And there's that's the part of podcasting I really enjoy is if you're doing the podcast, you should make yourself available as much as possible elsewhere. Like, we all have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything on the planet. And that's kind of where your bread is buttered there, because if you get the people to engage with you outside of just listening to you, then it really becomes a more, three-dimensional conversation. And there's this wonderful feedback that you get, which makes you more encouraged to get out and do what you're doing.
Which is why you see me on Twitter, and Roland actually does a great job on the Instagram.
Mm-hmm. I still don't get Instagram. I will admit I'm an old man.
Instagram is the fancy cheese and the hipster shorts of social media. Like, you really have to have that edge and really know how to
fancy cheese.
That's sort of why I select the Twitter aspect with us having a separate account. So instead of having all three of the hosts like fighting over listeners on the Facebook or the Instagram, it's more like we can talk about a topic, or if someone hits us up on one topic, we can always pick our own selves instead of as FSFL or something like that. Because that's the issues we sort of had with Facebook. It's like someone will comment, and then one of us will comment, but we wanted to comment as ourselves, but it said FSFL, so just like FSFL was saying like multiple things at once out of context.
Yeah.
So.
If you're using a mobile device, sometimes you can flip-flop between the two. I've actually been able to comment as myself on my page through my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got none of that.
It's all a fun learning process. So I think starting out a podcast is literally BSing a Stonehenge presentation you didn't study for, and sticking it out still gets you the grade because you were the first one to get up there and do the presentation. Therefore, you set the bar. Therefore, the teacher doesn't judge you as hard.
Can I tell you my highest graded presentation when I was taking the college public speaking course was on procrastinating on for speed. And it had to be a video presentation, and back in the day, I had a little camera that I would carry around with me because I'm a crazy person. This is back before they had even the flip phones, if you know what I'm talking about. So actually, I think I had a flip phone, but anyway. So I recorded me hanging out with friends playing video games, and then that was the presentation. So as you can see, I'm still not preparing for what I'm doing. And this is the face of a man who has no idea what he's going to talk about. And I went on a 30-minute tirade, as I am wont to do, And the
That
teacher's
is
like,
great.
very good, very tongue-in-cheek. I can definitely tell you put a lot of preparation into this. Oh, no,
I love it.
yeah, sure I did.
The last presentation I did, it was a group of, it was 5 of us.
That's good.
Because the other 3 either didn't do the work or the others showed up for the class.
Or maybe they just had poor time management.
Well, we all did. It was a supplementary course because we all sucked at school.
One of my best speeches was on hybrid cars, like when they first started rolling out.
Way to be on topic, Johnny.
I did speech team in high school, and I never went to college, so I mean, I'm a totally different world. I was the drama geek in high school, so I learned how to memorize speeches and everything like that. And then from there, I did a couple of, like, my speech team stuff that actually almost got me to state was I memorized the scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and did the whole scene myself, every character. So, I mean, public speaking's no big deal to me. Can you guys hear me okay? Hello? Oh, and Skype. I loathe you sometimes.
I love Skype so much.
Yeah, but when you're trying to tell old people how to call a show, it's hard enough to get them to not use a phone.
Yeah.
So that's why you Skype. Yeah. Yep. Skype. What? Yeah. I've run out of shit to say, I think.
Same.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, like, on this topic. I mean, I can go to the tirade of it. Like, well, back in the day when I started doing this, and my partner at the time, Proc, and he had what was a recording studio, and it was
What?
For a time.
What?
Yeah. What? Who said that?
We recorded on wax.
Your dad was a wheel?
Wax cylinders.
Did you pick up that phone?
Where's my old roll phone?
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine.
You know what's the absolute best thing about doing this, though, is, and, like, honestly, no joke, is I have made so many friends doing podcasting.
Yes.
All of you included, where it is so great to know, like, basically I have to buy so many people so many beers no matter where I go in this country. That is a wonderful...
Well, I don't drink, so you can have one on me.
You are going to have the beer. You are not allowed to, like... I will put it in an IV and stick it in you.
You know what? I have a near empty driveway, so feel free to come by and crash anytime you want.
Yeah, well,
right back at you
I have
guys.
to get away from the wife for that. So.
Well, all right.
Man.
On that bombshell.
Yeah, what's going on? I think Skype's breaking up again.
I can hear everybody
Jake,
okay.
hear me?
I can
Jake,
hear everybody
live.
fine, and I'm the one recording, so that's what matters. Hello. Hello.
Oh.
Hey.
Should we get out plugs for what we're listening to, or should we not do that? So,
What?
yeah. So, like, typically when you have people on your show, Matt, like, what you do is you let them say what their, program is, and then they...
You're
where
better
to
at this
find
than
them.
I am. You do it.
Well, everybody plug their own show. We'll go with that. Go ahead. Ike, go ahead and start. Ike?
We're gonna have.
All right. Well, I'm Matt from FSFL, or Flat Sideways Fully Locked.
Isn't this going to be on your podcast?
Oh gosh, is it?
I thought that was the plan. And Skype is failing us again. Oh, joy. I can hear myself, but I can't hear anybody else, and I doubt anybody can hear me. And the video feeds for everybody is frozen solid. Okay. So. Hey, there you guys are. You guys went silent for like a minute straight. There was nothing. I was just talking to myself.
Hi, Jake. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
All right, here's how we're going to do this. Matt, you can find on Flat Sideways Fully Locked. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. I think that's right. Probably on the Google Play Store, wherever fine podcasts are found. You can find GTP Johnny. His podcast is on Spreaker. It is the Blown Pistons podcast. You go check it out. My podcast is the Untitled Car Show, and I am on Twitter at Untitled Car Show. They have stuff too on the Twitter, but their social media isn't as important as mine. And Jake is good at recording on Rags to Races podcast. I think that's everyone's shit, right?
Works for me.
Yep.
All right,
Just
cool.
Just go to badhabitsnetwork.net to find all of our shows.
There we go. Yeah. I think that's good.
All right.
And then I to keep rambling until Jake, cuts this. Ramble.
Well, all right. And on that
If you're around the
bombshell.
Wisconsin area, you can check out.
Oh, I think Johnny's trying to plug. Wait, hold on. Before you end,
I think he
Johnny's
was,
trying to
but
plug, 'cause he has
honestly,
business.
Skype cut out, and it sounds like I just cut him out. That's really bad.
That's okay.
Okay.
I was going to plug out my shop. It's all
No, by all means, go ahead. And Skype's getting screwy again.
It's good.
Yeah, I'm losing you.
You're assuming.
Cake.
All right. Yeah.
Jake, send me a copy of that too, because I'm gonna put that up on my site too.
Oh, no problem. Everybody email me at ragstoraces.com your email addresses, and I'll put a Google Doc together with the MP3. I'll just send a raw MP3 out unless you ask for an edited copy, and then I'll edit it.
Wait, so you're asking us to ask you to not do work for you or for us?
No, you're asking me to do extra work if you want.
Wait a minute, what was your email again?
Rags2Races, all one word, RAGSTORACES @gmail.com.
Oh, I got it right here. Cool. And send. I just sent you my email.
All right, cool. I'll put this into a raw MP3. If you want me to edit it, let me know. Might be not be till over the weekend, but I'll get to it as soon as I can.
Okay. I mean, you can edit it or you can just send it my way and I can try to chop it up, but you can do whatever you want.
Look at all the crap.
I'll send
I
you
think
the
I
raw
picked
one right
frame
now
a
because
little
I'm on 4 episodes that I got to go through, plus a couple articles to write. So
That works.
if you
That
have
works.
any issues, though, with the editing, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to run through it and send you an edited copy.
That works. Cool.
All right.